What is up, guys? In today's video, it's about how to play Paul Phoenix, the basic fundamental. If you're new to the game and decided to pick Paul as your main character, I hope this video will be useful. Alright, let's get it on. Paul's effective battle range. First things first, whenever your left jab want to get connected to the opponent, you are in the right range. His performance is optimal at this range. I'm not saying we need to get this close all the time to the opponent, but most of his moves are meant to be done at this range. We will discuss more about that later on, but for now, this is Paul's optimal battle range. Coming up next is Paul's strength. Simple and straightforward. That's the best words to describe Paul. Easy to play, big damage, and the moves list is not complicated like some other character. You hit hard, very hard, and if you do it right, you can make a comeback plus winning the game with only 2 or 3 moves. Next section is Paul's weakness. When you look at his moves and starts to play with him for a while, you will notice this guy is not able to perform high level of tricky gameplay like Yoshimitsu or Xiaoyu. Well, he has a couple of feints like this and this. These few moves will work at certain ranks since the start of your ranked journey until orange or red. But somewhere later, for example, if you keep climbing the ranks and got to mid Fujin or Raijin, this will absolutely 99% not working at all. It just doesn't work that way in higher ranks. And that brings us to his 3 fatal weaknesses. Number 1, predictable. Most of his moves goes into a straight path, straight line, from A to B. You can go from A to D, or B to F, or maybe from A to G. I'm talking about his staple moves, his main moves, not to be confused with how to play Paul. He only has a couple of feints, which I mentioned earlier, and this brings us to the next point, which is not so fast execution. He hits hard, but the execution is slow. Predictable plus slow execution. When facing against string-heavy opponents like Reina or Azucena, Victor, Hwarang, or fast-paced character that can keep changing stances midway like Lars or Xiaoyu, he can only respond in a very few manner. And that brings us to the next point, which is lack of low attacks. He only has down back 3, QCF 3, side step 3, and demolition man. This lack of low attacks is fatal, because he only has so few low attacks, the opponents already knew when to block. Especially Demo Man. You need to get this close to do this move. So, if Paul's approaching you this close, it's either he will try to grab you or do this move, or he will try to throw down 1-2. But since down 1-2 will get -16 if blocked, and you will get launched, your safe options now is to throw low attacks. Oh yeah, he got this backfire too. See, the problem is, most of the time, if the opponent saw you get this close to him, he will have a higher chance to low block, because it's very obvious of what you're trying to do. So in summary, if you watch it this far, you will notice Paul's strength is also his weakness. His weakness is also his strength. He hits hard, but also super predictable. His low attacks is not so many, but when it hits, it can turn your match upside down with the right setup. He is easy to play, but hard to master, similar to Kazuya. It's all or nothing with Paul. Your matches while playing as Paul should be tight, raw, and a little bit rough, and makes both of you and your opponent a rush of adrenaline. In my opinion, characters in every fighting game is designed not to be equal. By this time, you must surely have your sweet time getting trashed by Hwarang, Alisa, Asuka, King, Jun, Jin, Victor, Reina, and especially Dragunov. Those characters that I just mentioned is obviously designed to be much easier to play. And they have everything, man. From low attacks, grab, ridiculous setup, power crush, and people literally can win matches just by playing them, getting carried. While Paul is somewhere maybe in A or B rank. If you happens to saw or meet a guy playing Kazuya or Paul or Leroy in ranked matches, like somewhere between Fujin, Regin, or Tekken Kings, I can tell you that they are definitely better than most of the game's population. Think about it. If you play B tier character and manage to make it up there in those high ranks, imagine what you can do if you're playing with S tier character. Your character only has very limited weapons, right? You will have much better understanding of the game as you climb higher. But if you saw all the higher tier characters I mentioned earlier are within in those ranks, only a couple of them are truly stands out from the rest. I mean, if you screw up, your character can still make you win, right? But at the end of the day, all this talk about A, B, C, D, S tier list characters getting carried, blah blah blah, all of that doesn't matter much if you're not enjoying the game. So how do we enjoy the game? It's a fighting game. We enjoy the game when we win, right? And how do we win? When we have a better understanding of how our character works better than the opponent does. This guy Paul has been my favorite character all the time since Tekken 1. Now we got 32 characters in the current game. The game is still new and it will last for maybe around 4 or 5 years. It's nice to play other character as we progressed. Stay tuned for in-depth Paul Phoenix guide. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much guys and I'll see you next week.